To be the symbol of hope that the Arrow never was.
If the Arrowverse gave us anything, it was proof that superhero storytelling can work really well on TV when it's connected across different shows. The crossover events, the team-ups, and even the small nods between series made the world feel big, alive, and fun. But because the Arrowverse kept expanding, not every character really got the attention they deserved. Arrow and its spin-offs did a bunch of great things, turning figures like Green Arrow and Batwoman into household names. But a lot of supporting characters ended up being underutilized. That's where the idea of Arrow Season 9 becomes exciting, because if it ever happened, it could fix some of those missed opportunities and finally give certain heroes and villains the spotlight they never fully got. When Arrow ended with Season 8, it wrapped up Oliver Queen's journey in a way that felt final. But the Arrowverse itself kept going for a bit longer with The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl, Batwoman, and Superman and Lois. And although those shows were full of creative storytelling, the universe as a whole started to feel stretched thin. That's exactly why the thought of Arrow returning for one more season, even as a limited revival, could actually bring things full circle. Because it could take all those side characters who were introduced but forgotten and reframe them inside the world that started it all. Take Lucy Lane, for example. She popped up in Supergirl and Superman and Lois, but the shows never really did much with her. In the comics, Lucy has a path that could lead to her becoming Superwoman, which would have been huge. Instead, she mostly served as someone who had tension with her sister Lois and their dad. That's fine for a family drama, but in the larger superhero context, it felt like wasted potential. If Arrow Season 9 ever happened, it could easily pull her in as a main player. Because the show always had a knack for mixing grounded family dynamics with high-stakes superhero action, it could use Lucy's story as a way to explore how powers impact siblings differently. That kind of emotional core, combined with action, is exactly the kind of thing Arrow did best. And then there's Ryan Choi. Fans of the comics know that Ryan becomes the Atom after Ray Palmer, but in the Arrowverse, he was barely used. He showed up in the big Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover as the Paragon of Humanity, which sounded like a major deal, but then he faded into the background. It was Ray Palmer who got all the love on Legends of Tomorrow, while Ryan just floated in and out without much of a storyline. But Season 9 of Arrow could change that by giving Ryan a proper arc. It could even bring him into Team Arrow as the new scientific genius, stepping into Felicity's old role, but also suiting up as a hero in his own right. Because if you're going to introduce a character like Ryan Choi, it only makes sense to let him actually become the Atom instead of just hinting at it. Sebastian Blood, better known as Brother Blood, is another perfect example of someone who deserved more. In Arrow, he was introduced as a politician and later as a villain connected to Deathstroke, but his story never leaned into the darker supernatural side that makes him so scary in the comics. He has ties to cults, horror vibes, and even the Teen Titans. But on Arrow, he ended up more grounded, and his arc was cut short when he defected to Team Arrow and then died. A Season 9 could easily resurrect him, maybe through mystical means, and finally give him that cult leader presence that could terrify Star City. It would fit Arrow's darker tone perfectly, and it would give Oliver's legacy one last haunting villain to overcome, even if Oliver himself isn't the one leading the charge anymore. When it comes to underused anti-heroes, Vigilante takes the cake. Arrow gave us two versions, Vincent Sobel, who was pretty bland and overly grim, and Adrian Chase, who ended up being Prometheus instead of Vigilante. The problem was that neither of them really captured what made the comic character interesting. Adrian Chase in Peacemaker proved that the character can be fun, layered, and memorable. So, imagine Arrow Season 9 taking another shot at him, maybe even introducing a younger vigilante who operates in Star City after Oliver's death. Because Arrow was always about legacy, adding Vigilante in a way that explores the blurred line between hero and killer would not only honor the source material, but also show how Star City's vigilante scene continues to evolve. Then we've got the Trickster, played by Mark Hamill on The Flash. The Arrowverse basically used him as a wink to Hamill's Joker days, which was entertaining but not much else. He never became a real threat, and his appearances felt like filler. But if Arrow had one more season, it could actually do something darker with Trickster. Because Arrow was always willing to take villains seriously, it could transform Trickster into a true psychological threat, something closer to a Joker-light figure in Star City, but with his own twisted gimmicks. And with Hamill's range, he could have been terrifying if written right. Mr. Terrific is another character who had a lot of potential but got stuck in a supporting role. Curtis Holt was brilliant and likable, but instead of suiting up as a major superhero, he mostly acted as tech support for Team Arrow. He did have moments in costume, but the show never leaned fully into his superhero identity. In a Season 9, Curtis could return as a fully developed Mr. Terrific, leading missions, showing off his T-spheres, and living up to his comic book greatness. Because Arrow always balanced brains and brawn, giving Curtis the space to shine would finally do him justice. And what about The Shade? When he appeared in The Flash, he was barely recognizable. Instead of being the strange, gothic villain from the comics, he was reduced to a shadowy meta with no real depth. Stargirl later did a better job with him, but that doesn't change the fact that Arrow could have pulled him off in a way that fits its darker style. A mystical villain who manipulates shadows would have been a perfect fit for Star City's crime-ridden streets. Season 9 could easily reintroduce him properly, finally tapping into his full, creepy, otherworldly potential. Some characters had the right look, but not the right time. Hawkman and Hawkgirl are perfect examples. Their designs in the Arrowverse were incredible, but their storylines felt cut short. They joined Legends of Tomorrow for a season, then disappeared, even though their ancient reincarnated backstory has enough material for multiple shows. Arrow Season 9 could bring them back in a grounded way, maybe tying their mythological history into one of Star City's darker arcs. Because Arrow always thrived on blending the fantastical with the gritty, these two would have been a natural fit if given another chance. And then there's Wally West. Fans have been saying for years that Wally was the most underused speedster in the Arrowverse. He was introduced with promise, became Kid Flash, and then was written out way too soon. It felt like the writers didn't know what to do with him because Barry was already the Flash. But that doesn't mean Wally didn't deserve better. Arrow Season 9 could have given him an arc that allowed him to operate as Central City's protector while still tying into Star City. In the end, Arrow Season 9 would be about legacy. The legacy of Oliver Queen, the legacy of Star City, and the legacy of all those heroes and villains who never got their full due. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.